everyone.
Okay, sir.
Good morning, Ritu.
Good morning, sir.
Shall we start?
Yeah, we are good to go.
Please.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I heartily welcome you to the second day of our two-day Bodhi International Congress and International Conference on English Language, Literature and Culture. It has been jointly organized by Department of English, Patrasayer Mahavidyalaya, affiliated to Bankura University, and Department of English, NMS Sarmathai Vasan College for Women, Madurai, Tamil Nadu. And this collaboration has been throughout supervised and organized by Bodhi International Journal of Research in Humanities, Arts and Science. It gives me immense pleasure to begin today's session as a chairperson, and I am very pleased to welcome Dr. KARTHIK Kumar, who is an associate professor of English and deputy director of IQSC, Annamalai University, Annamalai Nagar, Tamil Nadu, India. His area of specialization is post-colonial literature and feminist drama, and he keeps an interest in green studies as well. He has several plenary lectures delivered and invited lectures delivered to his name, and he is well published in national and international areas of academia. I heartily welcome you, sir. We are very grateful to you that you have made it to this conference of ours. And without wasting any time, I would like to leave it to you so that you can continue with your lecture, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you and happy meeting you online. First of all, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it okay?
You're
Okay.
audible. You're audible.
Okay. So my sincere thanks to the organizers. I know a few of them, Dr. Balakrishnan, Mr. Balakrishnan, Dr. Kaviyarasu, and Madam, who just introduced me. And I know quite a lot of people behind the organization. So I thank every one of them who have made it possible for me to meet you online on this virtual platform. Even as I thank you all, let me also express my profuse apologies to you for meeting you from an informal atmosphere in an informal outfit. Please bear with me. So today, I would like to, I know this is a very informed audience. So I would like to address, I wanted to address on postmodern narrative. But due to some unavoidable circumstances, I have shortened my lecture, and I would like to highlight one or two points, one or two important salient features of postmodern narrative. And I would touch upon, the idea of self in postmodern condition. I hope this would raise a lot of questions. And in fact, I intend to raise questions rather than answering questions. The purpose why I wanted to address on this topic, we are in an era where we have to come to believe, or we have come to disbelieve in grand narratives. We have come to disbelieve in classics. We have come to disbelieve in, or even we have come to question, or we have come to ridicule the grand narratives. We do not believe in a center. We don't believe in anything. We don't believe in meaning. And we believe in the apparent absurdity of life. Even literature, which once held the universe together, which held the humanity together, has become fragmented. It celebrates fragmentation. There are people who celebrate fragmentation. They believe that life is absurd, life is meaningless, there is no purpose in life. But what I want to argue is that we need something to hold on. Life may be absurd apparently, superficially, but we need something to hold on. We need the grand narratives. We need the classics. They might be false or they might be true, but to make life meaningful, to make life profound, to make our experience richer, we need certain grand narratives. So that is the point of the lecture. So in this context, let me move on to the presentation. So I'm reminded of what W.B. Yeats wrote some 100 years back, turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart and the center cannot hold. So this is the situation we are in now, right now. And I want to question this. Let me move on to the presentation. I have prepared a talk. So let me avoid some introductions. In 1947, Arnold Toynbee used the term postmodern for the first time to denote the then current phase of Western history, characterized by anxiety, helplessness, irrationalism. So the same still continues. It has become all the more increased. He evidently used it as an extension. Toynbee used the term postmodernism, or postmodern to be precise, as an extension, as a heightened form of modernism. For what was new about it? Existentialism, denial of the essence, the center, absurdism, absence of the meaning, and ethical relativism, all these were there as the essential ingredients of modernism already. So according to Toynbee, he used the term postmodern as an extension to denote what was already referred to by modernism. Yet little would Toynbee know that this catchphrase will serve as a slogan for and convenient rubric of whole plethora of confusion that we are experiencing today. Of course, when I use the word confusion, I react as a typical Easterner. Otherwise, what happened in the West was logical. To the Western mind, still the postmodern condition is logical. The only logical culmination of a thought process which began in ancient Greece and flourished there, and later under the auspices of the Romans who succeeded the Greeks, and was revived with a renewed vigor and vitality after the Renaissance. The pivot of the thought process, thought process, if you agree to ignore the feel idealistic strain in the Western thought, for it never had any formative influence on the individual and collective life of the West, was there. There was no pivot, no center, no referent for human thought and endeavor except the apparent. So this is the central belief of the postmodern condition. There is no pivot, no center, and no referent for human thought and endeavor except the apparent. We, the practitioners of literature or the students of literature, more as an escape than for any genuine commitment to an ideal, generally luxuriate on idealism, on Plato, Kant, Berkeley, and a host of others, little bothering to see whether it is these names or men like Aristotle, Bacon, Locke, Descartes, Adam Smith, Bentham, and a host of others who have ultimately determined the contours of the Western civilization. For these men who matter, what matters is the apparent. So I'm conscious that I might contradict some of the members of the audience. But anyway, what matters is the apparent, the real, and the actual. Consequently, they do not look beyond for any supposed essence of center. If center and essence are mere fictions, what are you left with but utter chaos and confusion? A chaos that does not have the potential to produce a cosmos. For cosmos is order, while disorder and panic characterize the postmodern scene. A scene that witnessed what Croker and Cook describe panic book, panic sex, panic art, panic ideology, panic bodies, panic noise, and panic theory, end quote. Right. Modernity rested on certain postulates, chief of them being progressive enlightenment and rationalism. It too had its nihilistic visions, but it took them on and tried to make some sense of them. Modernism equally believed in the absence of meaning, but at the same time, it deplored that condition. It did not celebrate that condition, and it tried to come to terms with the condition. But postmodernism has started celebrating it. It has started to believe in it. Some tried to tackle them through socio-political programming and its espousal in literary works. Others sought order and meaning by creating new myths or manipulating the old ones. And still, others chose to shrink into their individual shells to make peace with themselves, but all had a feeling that all is not lost. Amidst uncertainty, one had the vague feeling of a peg of certainty to hold on to. Amidst absurdity, one could hope to probe for a substratum of purpose. But postmodernism has waged an all-out war on certainty, totality, and absolutism in favor of fictionality, irony, and contingency. Stability has departed, making room for self-conscious skepticism and indeterminacy. Knowledge of the world is seen as undissociable from living in the world so that one can adopt no position from outside for a transcendental view from nowhere. Implication is all. I quote, implication is all. In such a situation, how one can locate value and legitimate knowledge. Paradoxically, this implication has done little to assuage the agony of alienation and feeling of absurdity. These were there with modernism also, but whereas modern writer tried to find some meaning through symbolism and formal complexity and cared for depth, the postmodern writer is surface bound and receives absurdity and meaninglessness with cynical playfulness and farcical unconcern. Grand narratives as Lyotard tells us, are suspect and illusory because they undermine a pluralist view. The cultural logic of the late capitalism has ramified in many directions, one of which is the explosion of information, which lie an irresistible deluge has swept away the stability and eroded the basic infrastructure of many a concept. As Bodhi argues in his book, Simulation, that the onslaught of media, television, films, advertising, and social media has led to the loss of the real. So we have come to believe in virtual reality rather than reality. Has led to the loss of the real, as the distinctions between the real and the imaginary stands totally blurred. In this process of misconstruction, which is believed to be construction, the Western media plays such a determining role that their constructs pass for the real, particularly for what has been constructed as the third world. So this is very much relevant to a country like India. The most marked feature of the transition from the modern to the postmodern is that in the postmodern situation, faith in the basic postulate has been shaken further, and in some areas totally shattered with no new set of postulates to take their place. Free interrogation of modernity's moorings goes on without any care to find fresh moorings. So this is about the condition. So we are in a world which is constantly determined by media. We have come to believe in virtual reality, and we believe that virtual reality is reality. So in this context, what is the concept, or what is the idea of self? So that is the point I would like to address. The idea of self in the postmodern condition. Fine. The contemporary ambivalent and polyvalent nature of self is in constant flux and has become fluid and many-sided without realizing it. The contemporary man, or the contemporary human, has evolved a the contemporary human has evolved a self appropriate to the restlessness and flux of our time. This mode of being differs radically from that of the past. In the past, self was a reservoir of infinite possibilities, but today it has become very superficial, and it just enables us to engage in continuous exploration and personal experiment. This self emerges from confusion, from the widespread feeling that we are losing our psychological moorings, and feels buffeted about by unimaginable historical forces and social uncertainties, and thereby creating such a threshold whereby legions of authority appear suddenly recede equally and rapidly, and are difficult for us to believe in when they are around. We change ideas and patterns frequently and do the same with jobs and places of residence. Enduring moral convictions, clear principles of our action, we believe these must exist, but where? Whether dealing with world problems or childbearing, our behavior tends to be ad hoc, more or less decided upon as we go along. This self is beset by contradictions, whether as individuals, groups, or nations. Our world and our lives seem instant and utterly unpredictable, symptomatic of a paranoid situation wherein this self readily feels unsteady, ambivalent, neurotic, or worse. Ambivalency and polyvalency is metaphor for a contemporary phenomenon which has the capacity to collegiate the discardia concurs, the agreement of disagreement, and cope with, sometimes even cultivate the feelings of otherlessness and homelessness associated with shifts in authority and mentorship. Mockery, especially self-mockery, irony, absurdity, and humor enables the dismembered self to lubricate its experiences and to express that sense of fit between the way world itself presents itself and the way one actually feels about it. The emotions of the contemporary self tend to be ambivalent and free-floating, polyvalent, not clearly tied to cause or target. Not just individual emotions, but communities as well may be free-floating, ambivalent, and polyvalent. That is, removed geographically and embraced temporarily and selectively with no promise of permanence. This dismembered self has an uncanny and uneasy relationship to the holding of ideas, a condition of considerable significance for present and future policies, religions, and general intellectual immense. Idea systems can be embraced, modified, let go, and re-embraced, all with a new ease that stands up in sharp contrast to the inner struggle people in the past endured. Since one seeks lasting human ties and sustained ethical commitments, which too linger in limbo and are susceptible to their own shifts. Indeed, a larger question for this disbelieved self, and one that cannot be answered simply, concerns its capacity to sustain and live out moral principles in the midst of this psychological flux. Since this deduxified self has lost what is termed as Hopkinian confidence, rather than collapsing under the whirlpool of threats and pulls, it turns out to be surprisingly ambivalent and polyvalent. It makes use of bits and pieces here and there and somehow keeps going. What may seem to be mere tactical flexibility or just bungling along turns out to be much more than that, finds itself evolving, a self of many possibilities, one that has risks, pitfalls, but at the same time holds out considerable promise for the human future. The contemporary self did not suddenly appear in full bloom. It emerged from a certain social and historical context. What we call, ma'am, any disturbance? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can I move on, ma'am? Okay.
Yes, sir. Please.
Any
please.
disturbance?
No, so far so good.
Okay.
Please carry on.
Okay, ma'am. The contemporary self did not suddenly appear in full bloom. It emerged from a certain social and historical context. What we call the self, one's inclusive sense of or symbolism of one's own being, is enormously sensitive to the flow of history. Since world has witnessed large-scale disasters, included colonization and revolutions of various types, movement towards the western frontier, the carnage of our civil war, massive immigration, thundering storms of many major wars, continuous technological pessimism, and its resultant social upheaval that readily have had formidable influence on the contemporary self. For these historical forces not only manipulate the self from outside, but shape it impotently from within. Historical influences contributing to the ambivalent and polyvalent self can be traced back to the Enlightenment and even to the Renaissance in the West. And its poisonous fangs emerged in postmodern society of today with its own hashtags. These influences include the dislocation of rapid historical change, the mass media revolution, genocidal policies of the governance, panoptic gaze of self-regulation, and the threat of human extinction all have undergone an extraordinary acceleration during the last half of the 20th century, causing a radical alterity of prayer thought process and sources of authority. At the same time, ways of reconstituting the self in the midst of radical uncertainty have also evolved so much so that the self has become a modus vivendi, that is, a mode of living, and having a self is a punishment. And this self is at stake in the writings of postmodernist writers. And if the self, endangered by the legions of post-era theorists come philosophers, is the same as the self behind René Descartes, I think, therefore I am, then the formulation that would seem to follow it is, I hallucinate myself into being. I quote, I hallucinate myself into being. Ambivalent and polyvalent self in postmodern context has characteristic and novel features such as certainty, reflexivity, self-scrutiny, fragmentation, and diversity. Are we witnessing a transformation in the ontology through which we think ourselves, a mutation in the techniques through which we conduct ourselves, a reconfiguration of the relations of authority by means of which we divide ourselves and identify ourselves as certain kinds of person, exercise certain kinds of concern in relation to ourselves, or govern ourselves as human beings of a particular sort? Thus, the diversity of authorities of the self in our present, the pluralization of moral codes, the apparent attenuation of the links between political government and the regulation of conduct, the heterogeneity of forms of life, the valorization of choices and freedom in the shaping of a style of life, the simultaneous celebration of individuality and proliferation of techniques of group identification and segmentation, do all these signify the new modes of subjectification have appeared today? So these are the two important questions I would like to raise. Further, a whole new array of authorities of subjectivity has taken shape in the form of broadcast images of dilemmas for the self, self-conduct, and self-formation, no longer in the realm of romance or adventure, but in quotidian narratives of everyday life. The public habitat of images and stories presupposes certain repertoire of personhood as the prairie of the forms of life they display. It is amplified by her relation with the technologies of marketing and the shaping of consumption. So this is what we have come to believe in as a self. This is what we think as a self. So we have lost the sense of profundity, and we have become polyvalent, ambivalent. We are faced by contradictions, and we do not know what we are doing. But we believe that we are the ultimate. So this is the irony of the postmodern condition. Since the postmodern novel had a yes. Okay, since modern novel had exhausted, okay, to quote Barry Hanna's verse, I quote, the ambitious grandness of Woolf and Henry Miller and Faulkner, and that the contemporary mind simply does not want to face, and the high themes of love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. So these are the grand attributes which we do not want to face. We try to pass beyond them, or we try to wink at them, as well as the elevated existential tone. And now had come to emphasize the everyday concerns of ordinary people in a matter-of-fact language. there was not left much space for innovation. When the subject of the novel is no longer the large I of the metaphysical or quasi-metaphysical tradition of the universal unity, but the small or weak I that endeavors to integrate the private and social aspects of the person in a leveling and at the same time partialized world. And when narrative form and language are no longer objects of experimentation, because the paradigms of the traditional and the modern novel have been used up, the novel is in for repetition and for competition from other media. It is in for repetition because the everyday concerns of people and the habitual narrative strategies are apt to repeat themselves and become cliched, can scarcely create the crucial difference that creates unique meaning. It is in for competition because newspapers, magazines, and the electronic media have taken over the task of social information and analysis. Thus, the postmodern change of the premises and strategies of fiction answered to signs of exhaustion in the novel and to new distribution of roles in the communication system of society. A postmodern condition does not necessarily mean living in concrete jungles of the West that flourish on heavy industrialization. It is our material and spiritual conditions that is a consequence of the tension created by the incompatibility of our organic evolution with the sudden and overwhelming technological revolution that rendered all political and ideological frontiers meaningless. This condition of living does not comprise people's material possessions. It comprises their attitude and behavior determined by the material condition created by the paradoxical centrifugals of technology. Our condition, therefore, is our recognition of and acquiescence in the inescapable absurdities inherent in our material conditions rather than challenging them in search of our programmed meaning, as did the postmodernists who believe that there is no more any scope for lamenting the loss of values, for melancholia and renunciation, as did the romantics with their allegiance to some or other utopian alternatives. So I think I can wind up here. So I just tried to make a sense of the postmodern condition and how this postmodern condition has resulted in a notion of self that is constantly in a state of flux. So we no longer do not want to believe in grand narratives. We do not believe in center. But what I believe is that we need a center to believe in. We need something to hold on to so that life will become profound, experience will become meaningful. There may be absurdities in life, but they are there not to celebrate. They are there to be explored. So with these, I just conclude, and I once again thank everyone who is behind the organization of this online seminar for having provided me with this envious space. And I also once again express my apologies for being so informal because of my circumstances. Thank you all. I prepared a few slides, but I couldn't share because I'm away from home. And I promised that I would share my prepared slides before tomorrow evening. Thank you once again. I know that this is a very informed audience, and there might be some disagreements. But even if there are disagreements, let us agree to disagree with each other. So thank you. Hope to meet you again. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you very much, sir. It was truly very special listening to you. And as a chairperson of this session, I have a few comments to make about your lecture, sir. First of all,
Please, ma'am.
when you say that it's important to raise questions, I thoroughly agree with you. That is probably what we have learned, that to critique and go on critiquing is the spirit of inquiry that keeps life alive. And when you're saying that the hollowness that has come from the post 1945 postmodern period, say be it Lyotard or Baudrillard or Frederick Jameson, the situation has only worsened. And I think both the world wars had to do a lot with it, along with the rise of media as the fourth empire. However, I found it very, very interesting when you said that we must have something to look forward to. Because be it T.S. Eliot or be it W.B. Yeats, we have seen their transition. T.S. Eliot had submitted to Indian faith, as we have seen in his Westland. He had become a Christian, he had become a devout, religious person towards the end of his career. That is immensely reflected in his works. And so is with W.B. Yeats. When he's writing to Tagore in his letters while they were working on Gitanjali, it was very, very present in his arguments that he was changing as a man. Now, there can be several things of, there can be several things that probably motivated that change, but the change nevertheless happened. And again, see, if I take Nietzsche, and Nietzsche is saying that God doesn't exist. So are we in postmodern period. We are saying that meta-narrative doesn't exist. We have lost all our faith and belief. But if we are denying God, to deny something, you must accept the presence of it. I can only say good evening when I'm sure that the morning is gone. Right. So what you are saying, I do not disagree, sir. And I felt that probably we are in a world of pandemic, and we should have reached the fag end of belief and faith. We have seen deaths, we have seen an economic, void. Our country is in a situation of turmoil, but still we are probably looking forward to a start of a new year. So we probably always look forward to with this inner hope that maybe humanity will create wonder. So thank you very much for making this morning so wonderful for all of us. And I know your personal loss is, nothing less important for us, but I am truly grateful that you could make it. So with your permission, sir, shall I move to the
compliment?
No, sir. Thank you very much. So with your permission, sir, shall I move towards the next part of the session? Bala, sir?
Yes, sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am. I will catch you up later, if possible.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Karthik Kumar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
So now
Dr. Jayanti is available. You may start the paper presentation session.
Okay. I heartily welcome Dr. B. Jayanti, who's one of our chairpersons for the paper presentation session. Madam is an associate professor of English at Anna University, Regional Campus, Tirunelveli. Madam, we are very glad to have you here. A senior professor like you gracing the occasion always motivates the speakers. So I'll, without wasting any time, Madam, I'll leave the floor to you.
Yes. Very good morning to one and all present here. The participants are most welcome. Bala, can I have the list of the participants, or can you call out the first participant? Yes, I have them. Right. And we have a co-chairperson with us, Dr. Tenmala Bharati. The first participant, MUKHERJEE from University of Mumbai. Can I call MUKHERJEE, Dr. MUKHERJEE? MUKHERJEE, are you ready? Can I call upon the next participant, Dr. Manjula Bashini?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, Manjula, welcome,
Yes.
Manjula. Yeah.
Shall I start, ma'am?
Yes, you can start.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Manjula Bashini, an associate professor and head in the Department of English, Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science, Coimbatore. And the topic of my presentation today is the relevance of myths and folk tales in literature. And to begin with, the basic conflict between good and evil is the fundamental theme of all myths and folk tales. And not only that, myths and folk tales may have much in common, but they use the materials very differently. And friends, from a strictly scientific point of view, we generally tend to dismiss myths as unbelievable stories, since myths talk about gods and goddesses and other supernatural beings, and they may be considered unscientific and anti-rational. But myths can be viewed from a point of view not literally, but symbolically and metaphorically. This is called as a demythologization. And as long as a demythologization is in existence, demythicization, that is what we call as the destruction of myths, cannot take place. And it has to be noted that myths and folk tales play a definite communitarian role by bringing societies together through rites and rituals. And they are normative because they prescribe certain rules regarding the social and moral behavior of the culture of which they are a part of. And in myth hermeneutics, this is what we call it as that it has to be underlined that myths need to be interpreted and reinterpreted so that they fit into the contemporary framework. Otherwise, it becomes totally irrelevant. And to modern men and women, the ancient and archaic myths are meaningful only if they are relevant to our times. And this calls for a dialogue between the past and the present. And my paper exclusively discusses how myths and folk tales are interpreted in literature, and it is made relevant to modern times. And it takes a detailed study, but I'd like to just share the few clips of it. And the English word myth, according to K.W. Ball, it comes from the Greek word mythos, which means word or speech. And mythos in its meaning of myth is the word of a story that concerns gods and supernatural, superhuman beings. And myth is also a vague term on which no exact and precise definition can be applied. And it is considered a prehistorical, and therefore they belong to no specific author. They have a social and a collective authorship. And if we take a folk tales here, myth and folk tales, they basically differ in one respect, writes Ramanujan. He says that where the former, the myths, divinize the human, the later, that is the folk tales, it humanizes the divine. And myths and folk tales may have much in common, but they use the materials very, very differently. If one functions in ritual context, social forms, and which is regulated by us, and the other one is public in performance, something like the folk tales, and it is by and large domestic. And generally, myths are endowed with an aesthetic dimension which come under the purview of literature. And in Myth and Literature, a collection of essays by John Vickery, he discusses the relationship between myths and literature in terms of formal, psychological, thematic, and cultural relationships. And quite few literary characters which are drawn from mythology can be James Joyce Ulysses, Lawrence's Sons and Lovers. These could be some interesting examples where the story is borrowed from mythology, but underneath the surface is mythic. And psychologically, myth and literature are derived from rituals. Religious rituals form the backbone of myth and literature. And culturally, myth and literature share common functions and objectives. For instance, humanizing is the prime objective of both myth and literature. both endow the readers with fine sensibilities and try to make the readers and listeners better human beings. To conclude, myths are malleable and they can tolerate almost any kind of treatment and remarks, says Ruthwan. In other words, myths lend themselves to diverse and creative interpretations. But what is of utmost importance is to find out how creatively the writer has made use of that particular myth. And lastly, it has to be noted that myth plays a definite communitarian role by bringing societies together through rites and rituals, and they are normative, for they prescribe certain rules regarding the social and moral behavior of the culture of which they are a part of. Thank you.
Very good. Good presentation. And your topic is very relevant to the theme of the conference, that is myth is connected with our culture. And you have done it very nicely. Any questions from the audience?
No, ma'am, you can carry on. I
Yes.
mean, I was just hoping that we could take the questions later on the chat box to avoid the
next.
time crunch.
Can I call upon the co-chairperson, Dr. Tenmala Bharati?
Has she arrived, madam?
Yes.
Okay, I'll
I
just
think
quickly introduce her.
She is connected. Bharati, are you connected, Bharati?
Yeah, good morning to everybody.
Just a moment, ma'am. I'll just formally introduce you to the participants, madam. Just a moment.
Yes.
Just a moment.
Can I introduce her?
I wasn't informed that you had arrived, so I'm really sorry for this. Just a moment. Yeah. So we have amongst us our second chairperson, Dr. Bharti.
Of RMD College of Engineering. She's the
Okay, great. You have done it on my behalf. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. And she's from RMD Engineering College. She has completed her 17 years of service in the college, and she's with us to co-chairing our session.
All right.
Welcome, Tenmala Bharati, Dr. Tenmala Bharati. Welcome to the session. And the next participant is Dr. Vikas Lathar. She is from Haryana. Dr. Vikas, are you ready? Vikas, Dr. Vikas? Bharati, you can call the fourth participant. Bharati?
Yes,
Jayatha Rai. She's from Calcutta. She's not ready?
Yes, ma'am, I'm ready. Hello?
Yes?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, my dear. You can carry on.
Okay, but I think the video is not on. Okay, I'll share the video. Okay, a very good morning to the respected chairperson and distinguished colleagues. I express my heartfelt thanks to the organizers of this team, Bodhi Congress, for allowing me to share this virtual platform, for expressing my opinions, for sharing my views and my ideas on eco-criticism. Now, I guess you're all aware that ecology is a topic which has gained much significance in almost every age and period, but more so, especially in today's COVID-19 pandemic situation. Now, my topic, the topic for the paper that I've prepared for today's conference is Flora and Fauna in the works of Gerald Durrell and Ruskin Bond. I'll move on to the paper right now. The word eco-criticism first appeared in the essay Literature and Ecology, an experiment in eco-criticism by William Rueckert in 1978. However, it remained inactive and was at last propelled into action in 1989 Western Literature Association meeting, where Cheryl Gottfried Godfrey received the term and instantly tried to apply it in the critical field of the study of nature writing. Eco-criticism helps people think of the moral and the psychological dilemmas posed by the environmental crisis, and also triggers man to use language and literature as a medium without profound ecological implications. This paper will try and analyze the importance of ecology and ecological balance through the novels of Gerald Durrell, who was born in 1925 and died in 1995, and Ruskin Bond, who was born in 1934 and at present he's 86 years old. He's still living. The man most influential in the times to document the fecundity of animal life was the Englishman Charles Darwin. During the 20th century, writers like Rudyard Kipling, Walter Delamere, and so on incorporated animals and birds in their themes. Kipling's Jungle Book also became very famous, and which even today remains as a classic for children. Also in Adamson's book, Living Free, we come across the story of the author and his pet lioness. This serves to establish the fact that a perfect human-animal relationship can be formed on Earth. There are some famous and popular writers like Dr. James Herriot, who has composed works like All Creatures Great and Small, All Things Bright and Beautiful, based on ecological themes. Gerald Durrell was a zoologist, conservationist, and was a popular writer on flora, fauna, and nature, and he gained his name for his minute knowledge of animals, flowers, and his gift for understanding the queerest of creatures. In fact, while searching through net, I found some very interesting pictures of this particular gentleman, Gerald Durrell, and I was wanting to share them with you, but since there's paucity of time, I think I'll leave it for some other time, and I'll carry on with the paper. Even as a child, Durrell dreamed of owning a zoo. I quote, "Most children at the tender age of 6 or so are generally full of the most impractical schemes for becoming policemen, firemen, or engine drivers when they grow up. But when I was that age, I could not be bothered with such mundane ambitions. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to have my own zoo. My friends and relatives who had long thought I was mental, owing to the fact that I evinced no interest in anything that did not have fur, feathers, scales, or chitin, accepted this as just another manifestation of my weak state of mind. The overwhelming greed of people led to the destruction of nature. In fact, Ruskin Bond, another lover of and writer of nature, who deals with ecological concerns and issues, penned down some excellent books on the destruction of nature and need for maintaining ecological balance. In one of his books, Dust on the Mountain, we have this protagonist Vishnu, who at one point asks, why there are no trees here? Then one of his co-passengers of the bus that was heading for Mussoorie replied. In fact, he was going to Mussoorie to find a job and make both ends meet because he came from a very poor background. And Ruskin Bond tried to show how Vishnu got totally disillusioned once he was in Mussoorie on account of blasting of the mountains with dynamite, and how he wanted to go back to his roots. So the destruction of nature was always a very much burning theme of most of his novels on ecology and ecological concerns. Then one of these passengers replied, there were trees here once, he said, but the contractors took the deodars to make furniture and doors and beams for houses, and the pines were tapped to death for the resin, and the oaks were stripped off their leaves to feed the cattle. This is from Dust on the Mountain.
Jayata.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry for the interruption. Can you make it short?
Yes, ma'am. Do I have 2 more minutes?
One participant is given only 5 minutes. Can you make it? Can you conclude it?
I'll just conclude.
Your paper is nice. You can conclude.
So we come to this concern of the Ruskin Bond, where he was very much concerned with this blasting of mountains and dynamiting the mountains. Now we come to Gerald Durrell, where we get Jerry's love for nature, which becomes obvious when he grows interest in studies only when his lessons take place outdoors. George, his tutor, sensed his passion for nature and wisely took him to a place via a natural route of olive groves. In this place, fishes seemed to drift over the wave-wrinkled sand as though suspended in midair. This place was beautiful as both the pupil and his tutor could see rocks on which anemones lifted the colored arms and hermit crabs moved beneath crystal clear water. In fact, at another instance, Jerry also, along with his pet dog, Roger, would spend endless hours trying to track the courtship process of tortoise. One more minute, ma'am. I'll just conclude in a
Yes.
while. Even the short story "No Room for a Leopard" by Ruskin Bond, where also we get the theme of deforestation and its accompanying aftermath, where it is presented the pathetic condition of animals after deforestation. It narrates the moving account of the killing of a leopard by a group of shikaris. The story also reveals the difference between the thinking of a child and that of an adult. Children love nature. They love all the creatures without any ulterior motives. They can never ever think of harming animals or exploiting them for their personal profit. But on the other hand, adults are solely driven by mercenary interests. If a leopard skin can help them get a good price, they would not think twice before killing him. Copperfield in the Jungle is yet another instance of a boy who has inherited his love for hunting, but at the same time feels very deeply for the innocent animal. Now I come to the conclusion of my paper. Both the writers, Ruskin Bond as well as Gerald Durrell, emerge as missionaries with a mission to protect and preserve nature. They are of the belief that the obliteration of flora and fauna finally leads to the destruction of man. Annihilation and disturbance of the delicate ecological balance leads to dangerous and harmful results where winter turns warm and monsoon remains bereft of rains. Bond was inspired to create new ecological ethics. Man, swayed by his greed and materialistic urges, felling trees at an enormous rate, will soon result in the world getting transformed into a desert. Bond, through his narration, conveys the message that there is a deep and mysterious bond between man and nature, and we need to realize.
Can I have your conclusion, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, this is the conclusion. I finished it. Man is part of a system which is cosmocentric, where everything is related to everything else. Durrell and Bond share a deep philosophical philosophy of there being a goodness in all beings, and we need to protect and preserve animals, reptiles, and insects, and only then will the ecological system retain its balance. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, very kind of you. It was very nice, very informative. Later, we will give you a feedback, ma'am. Next, we call upon because.
Yes, ma'am.
Carry on, sir, please.
Okay. Good morning, ma'am. I'm going to share my slide. Please wait for a minute.
Because can you take 5 minutes to present, my dear?
Yeah, sure.
Many participants are there. Please,
yeah, sure.
Stick on to your time.
Sorry, due to some technical reasons, I'm not unable to share my screen. Am I audible, ma'am? Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible, but not your slide is not visible, sir. You please carry on. Just to give the crux of the paper, sir, please.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you.
So, good evening, all. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizer for organizing such a beautiful literary feast and providing me opportunity to present the paper. The title of my paper is The Concept of Evil in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. And as my previous speakers, Dr. Manjula said, the conflict between good and evil is one of the core theme of English literature or any type of literature. Now, as you must are familiar with Joseph Conrad. Joseph Conrad can be considered as the first modern writer. And this novella, Heart of Darkness, some critics regard it as the first modern novel because it examines a condition of modernity. As you know, modernity is based on the assumption that rationality, science, capitalism, democracy, they are all the panacea of growth. They all lead to growth. But Conrad challenges this notion even before the First World War. And this is a very important text for understanding modernism, capitalism, imperialism, and so many contemporary concerns. Now, Joseph Conrad's works are based on moral consciousness, and sea plays an important character in his works because he was personally a seaman and he had a vast experiences of sea journeys across the world. Now, moving on to the title of the novel is highly symbolic. It suggests many things. Heart of Darkness, on the level of geography, it suggests the Africa, that Congo, and it also suggests the darkness, suggests nature of evil, nature of ignorance, and in it at one level it also suggests, very paradoxically, the heart of Western civilization also, because Western civilization used to think that we are enlightened, we are rational, and all other cultures are ignorant and dark. But this novel at one level also suggests that even Western civilization is ignorant, is dark. Okay, now let me conceptualize the concept of evil. Now, evil is a very complex concept, and right from our civilization, as our civilization progressed, human civilization, there was progress of moral consciousness also. The institution of religion was established, and the conflict of good and bad became a core theme of our cultural products, whether it is literature, whether it is art, whether it's our songs or whatever. Now, but evil is complex due to two reasons. First, it is a dynamic concept. The concept of evil keeps on changing. And another one, it is relative. Like for me, one thing is maybe evil, but for some other person, that may be good. Now, same thing happens with the core of imperialism also. For Western, they keep on saying that we are carrying the white man's burden. Actually, we are not exploiting the colonies. We are actually civilizing them. But from the perspective of colonies, you can see that that was a form of exploitation. So evil is a very complex concept, I believe. And this novella, Heart of Darkness, tries to examine this complex concept. As the story, you must, I know you must be knowing that it is Marlowe's journey to Congo to save Kurds, and Marlowe is hired by Belgian company as sea captain to visit the river Congo and to save the sick employee, Mr. Kurtz. Now, this journey is revealing, it's not a sea journey. Symbolically, it's a journey into the self of Christopher Marlowe. It's a journey into the imperialist heart also. It's a journey into colonialism also.
Dr. Vikas, sir?
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption. Conclusion, sir, please.
Yeah. So this journey reveals the exploitative nature of the colonial world, and the last words before dying, before the death of Kurtz, the horror and horror. This is a message to our modern civilization also, because the message suggests the world of need, the world of greed, the world of capitalism, the world of colonization. This is full of horror. This is not good. And I reminded of the end of Dr. Faustus also, like Dr. Faustus, who sold his soul for the material world. And he also felt the same feeling of horror which the pride and efficient person like Kurtz felt. So this is a warning to all of us. This novel is relevant to all of us, that right now, if we didn't stop our greed, then we may lead to a horrible world, like this kind of pandemic, as some people are suggesting, that this may be a biological attack also. There is kind of a theory. So we must introspect ourselves and need to differentiate between need and greed. Okay. So with this, thank you so much.
Yes. Nice, sir. It was very nice. Good. Next presenter.
Thank you,
yes. Thank you. Our next presenter, Sujarita.
No, Deepak Kumar. Deepak Kumar.
Yes, ma'am.
Deepak Kumar.
Yeah, ma'am. Am I audible and visible?
Deepak Kumar is over. Dr.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, so a very good morning to one and all. So the title of my paper is Reasons for Poor Communication Skills in English of First Year Engineering Students of Gujarat Technological University. So basically this paper that I have designed that concentrates on the poor communication skills of engineering students. And being a teacher in an engineering institute, I feel that my students are lacking in the communication skills, which are very important for them to get placed. So that is the reason this paper I have designed. And the main aim of the paper is to find out what are the reasons for the poor communication skills of the first year students and help them at the maximum level. We know very well that a lot of survey and a lot of research has been done in the field of English language, which focuses on the poor communication skills of the engineering students. So I'll not go to the review of literature section. It's quite well known, being researchers and being teachers. We know the lacuna of the communication skills among the engineering students. So skipping that review of literature part, I would just come to the methodology that I have used. So the methodology that I used was a 10-statement questionnaire, and there were two institutes which were involved in the survey portion. So this survey was conducted in 2019-20, and two engineering institutes called Vishwakarma Government Engineering College, and one was a Silver Engineering College. One was a government and one was a self-financed institutes. And the total participants which were involved were 553. It was including the vernacular medium background students as well as English medium school background students. And there were statements on the questionnaire which roughly surveyed how the students reacted to learning of communication skills, or rather we can say the English language. That English as a subject is offered to the engineering students. It's very important that we need to prepare our learners for the communication skills. So want to the research activity that I conducted. So one statement which I presented to the students was whether all their lectures in the first year are taken in the English language or in the vernacular language, or maybe in any other language. So majority of the students reacted that their lectures are not being conducted in English language. Now this is one of the the reasons why the students are not being trained in English language. So many times we need to switch over a different language, or rather a vernacular language, but it's very important at a time to teach them in English language.
Okay, Deepak, your audio is missing, pa. Deepak,
yeah, ma'am. Actually, due to the connection,
we are able to see you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can you come to the conclusion, Deepak, please?
Yes, ma'am. So the findings of my research are, first of all, it's very important that we need to teach the learners the concepts, and that is also in English language, so they will be trained better. Strengthening their linguistic abilities is very important because that will help in their jobs or in their placements. Vocabulary development is very important with engineering students, so there should be the kind of modules which will teach them. Dictionary usage is very much lacking among the students. Enough reading material is not provided to the students, so that is also one of the problems. Then the peer learning has to be incorporated. Technology, which is very important with this engineering students, has to be incorporated for teaching English language rather than teaching them in a traditional method. The confidence among the learners need to be boosted for speaking in English, and that is very important. And the learners need a good amount of language skills, and that is why they should be believed that this is going to be useful in their career. And after all, self-directed learning is very important, and this also should be promoted. So I hope that maybe the network connection, a little part was missing, but thank you very much to the organizers
Thank you.
for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Nice presentation.
Thank you, sir. Next, we call upon Mahir Jyoti.
Sucharita.
Yeah, Dr. MUKHERJEE Sangli.
Sucharita.
Mr. Balakrishnan. Okay. Carry on, ma'am. Okay.
Sucharita.
Chat box, I received a message from Balakrishnan that here the first presenter is also ready. So I called that person. Let madam carry.
Can I start, Dr. MUKHERJEE?
Sujarita, yes, ma'am. Dr. Sujarita. Yes, ma'am.
So, can I start now?
Yes, bye. You can start.
Yes. Good morning, one and all. I'm Dr. Sujarita from Pondicherry University Community College. The title of my paper is Mimicking or Mocking Gender Roles, a Select Study of Tamil Short Stories. I have shared the screen with you people. I hope you can see my screen. There are two observed concepts which became the norm of the society. One is culture and the second one is gender, according to me, because we don't know when onwards we have started to have these concepts, because these are the two very important dominant concepts at present we have in the society. Earlier, the term gender was used as a synonym for the word sex. So later what happened, because of the societal and cultural ideologies, the word has become very dense and it has decided to find the roles of male and female. The hypothesis of my paper is trying to solve these following four questions. The first one is why gender roles are made as norms for human. The second one is how female life is centered on marriage and family. How the Tamil women writers projected their culture and tried to give voice for gender neutral society. How far are they revolutionary? The Tamil women writers are revolutionary to sprinkle the seeds of equality. So, to find answer to these four questions, I have selected two dominant women writers are Sudamani and Ambai. They are two short stories, respectively, Seethayai Theriyuma, Nagalinga Maram, and Amma Oru Kolai Seidal and Siragugal Muriyum. So these are the four short stories I'm going to analyze with Judith Butler's concepts, performativity. So what is performativity? Before going to answer that, how gender has become norm of our society. I'm trying to find answer for this one. When we read Foucault's The History of Sexuality, we can understand the role of power structure, how power structure has made the, ideas, whatever it feels as a kind of, discourse in the society. Later, because of power and money, it has become the norm of the society. So this is how, heterosexuality and matriarchy has become the norm of the society. And even the French feminist Simone de Beauvoir, she has stated that one is not born as woman, whereas one is made as woman. So by basing on these two writers' concepts, Judith Butler concepts also, performativity, it also describes how women, especially the gender role, has become the norm of the society. So based upon according to the subject, it is formed, defined and reproduced based on the requirement of power structure. Consequently, gender norms were constructed through repeated acts, especially through body language, gestures and movement. So this concept, Butler calls it as performativity, and where the constructed ideologies has moved from the real natural world to the societal and cultural world. And for now, why I have selected women writers. When we take the writers from the contemporary world, those who write in English, they have some kind of freedom because they have more number of audience than the regional writers. So the regional writers have the threat from the society, and they have people, those who attack from the every corner of the society. So that's the reason they have to follow the societal norms, and even though they try to be a bit revolutionary, they finally tries to project themselves as conservative. So the paper tries to look how far they can mimic the gender role and how far they can mock the gender role. So this is the paper.
Madam Sujarita?
Yes. Yes,
it's almost a time, pa.
Yes. So here I have taken as I mentioned, 4 short stories. One is Nagalinga Maram, Manis, and another one is Amma. In both short stories, marriage and family is a basic institution where women are seen as a kind of, product to be sold off. Even here, we are not getting money to be married or something like that, but we have to give money, and, we need someone to get, marry the girl. So here, especially in these two novel short stories, we can find the color plays a dominant role. If when a girl is very fair, the father expects the dowry to be reduced based on that. And on the other story, Amma Oru Kolai Seidal, where the mother, she herself expects her daughter to be fair, because she will have a good market in the marriage. And the next two stories, in the first two stories, the author was trying to mimic the gender the stereotypes of the society, whereas in the next two stories, the writer Sudamani Sideye Theriyuma and Ambai's Siragugal Muriyum, the writer projects the woman character, especially the protagonist, to be a bit revolutionary, where the both protagonists are married women, and they are not able to accept the kind of atrocities their husband do. So they decide to live alone, but they are not bold enough to divorce their husbands. So here in these two stories, the writers, though they try to mock the gender roles in the society by making the women protagonists to leave their husband to live alone, but they are not completely revolutionary, because they made the women protagonists to not to divorce the husbands, because which is not a cultural practice of Tamil society. So thus the paper concludes that in the select stories, the writer project the practice of society, and though they try to reject the gender roles, they did that with some limitations. Even in the rejection, they presented or preserved conservative ideologies by not allowing the protagonists to reject the norms of the society. Thank you, everyone.
Very good, very good.
Thank you, Pa. Very good. Nice, very nice. Next, the first presenter, MUKHERJEE, madam.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
MUKHERJEE.
Dr. MUKHERJEE Sangle. I am assistant professor and head of the Department of History at SNDT Women's University. I am not the literature person, but I am historian, and I try to evaluate or examine the text where the different approaches has taken and the multidisciplinary approach has taken. I tried to present my presentation by writing. This the midwifery profession throughout the world is this totally gender biased profession. And because of this, the gender bias profession, we cannot get any sources or the literary sources. Though the historical history has used a lot of the literary sources also. And yesterday's presentation in the keynote address that the sir has mentioned that the cultural reflect through the literature. So through literature, we can get the better understanding of the contemporary issues and the culture and the problems and this one. So while being as a medical historian, I tried to find out the experiences of the midwives in the colonial history in the colonial India. But we are very, very scant sources of the finding of the midwifery profession, because the midwifery profession has a lot of taboos and social stigma. Who will do this medical profession? Who will do the midwifery? Midwifery is a pollution state. And in the 20th century, the work of the obstetrician and midwives was not acceptable throughout the world. It was not a respectable profession in the society in Britain. And then I got one very remarkable source or the remarkable work that the Jennifer Worth has written called The Midwife. So the Call the Midwife is a very, very, it's in the 20th century. And the Call the Midwife has the Jennifer Worth has written this work is the on the part of this, this one, on the part of this, in Britain. I'm looking this text as British has the authorized and British has colonized India, and whenever the British has the victimized Indian people or the victimized this given the reason of this the high maternal mortality in India, they are always saying this the Indian women are not using the cleanliness, and this the dyes, the role of dyes are there, and this and that one. from that angle, I'm looking of this text, and the Call the Midwife has given the excellent narrative script of this one. So the Jennifer Worth, who is the writer of that, she herself was the nurse, and she herself was the midwifery. But when she got the one article, Terry Coates, who is the again the Britain midwifery nurse, she has written one article, and she has said that the midwifery is totally negligible. It's totally invisible in the literature, and that's why Jennifer Worth has got this encouragement from the Terry Coates article. And she herself was a nurse, and she worked as a midwife in Nonata's house in Poplar in East End, London, during the 1950s. This period is the Second World War, after the Second World War. And this Poplar End at the East End location, the geographical location is that one. It is the totally, this the during the Second World War, this period is totally bombarding by the bombs, by the Germany, and this the so many people. So the Germans targeted it by dropping the fire bombs, and they fell on the chemical factories. And in East End, there is a totally dock. This is the London dock area. So the dock workers are living here. So the houses were hit, demolished, or half broken. Many families lost their lives and children. And this, the British government has totally neglected this area. So the search area is totally slum area. And because of the slum area, so the people, British government has totally neglected to develop, to give the attention on that one. And on that point of view, the Jennifer Worth has given the expression or the narration of that one, narrated story of this the midwifery profession in the East End. And what we can get that she has selected this profession because she mentioned the reason for choosing this profession is not for high thinking or high salary, but cause of the service to the humanity. But she wanted to break from her broken heart.
Madam, please excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Many presenters are waiting. Please, can you conclude, ma'am?
Yes, that's why I'm giving this Jennifer Worth has written this the second during this after the Second World War of this the midwifery profession, and the Call the Midwife is the bestseller book in the world. And the British Broadcasting Corporation realized this the understanding the importance of the midwifery profession, and this is the only one book which has we can get in that one. And that why BBC has broadcasted a television drama series about a group of nurses and midwives who work in the East End at London in 2001. And it is based on the Call the Midwife, that is the Jennifer Worth's book. And it is the 69 episodes were completed, and the millions of the publication has that one. The criticism of the literary point of the view, we can say that the book has equipped the people with an opportunity. It is reflected on the society's mindset of this the going enters the midwifery profession has totally changed, and this increased the strength of the courses and added high quality of people wanting to become a midwives. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Next, we call upon Mahavidyalaya Baid.
Hello.
Mahar, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Am I visible?
Yes. Your audio is you are audible. You are audible, but we slide is not visible, ma'am.
Just a minute. Is it okay, ma'am?
Only 5 minutes, ma'am.
Yes. This is Mahavidyalaya Bade from SNDT Arts and Commerce College, Pune, from SNDT Women's University. I have chosen my paper is an effort to establish correlation and interdependence of culture, language, and literature upon each other. there is correlation and interdependence of culture, language, and literature upon each other. Second thing I have tried to discuss is role of language, and the third one is role of translation. Language and literature and culture are interrelated. Language is fundamental along with other ways to enter the realm of culture. Literature will be an added factor. Why do we say that literature is important? Today is the age of globalization. Just a minute. Yeah, today is the age of globalization, and due to globalization, there is massively increasing tendency of going abroad, either for pursuing education or for doing jobs or for both. In fact, that has become the goal of life of many youngsters and even teenagers. When you reside at certain place, knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, you become a part of that community or society, and that is why you need to know their customs and traditions. Now here, when you say literature, it is always called as the mirror of life. It represents life, and since it represents life, so we express our feelings and thoughts through literature. Because of globalization and because we need to know the culture of the society that we are going to reside in, so literature and language go hand in hand. Now, when globalization is there, that means if you are not acquainted with the language of that particular society, then translation is going to help you. But again, there are challenges while translating a text. Because of the diverse cultures, it becomes difficult to translate from one language into another. Then there are multiple meanings of certain words. That again becomes a big challenge while translating a text from one language to another. Sarcasm of one language cannot be translated in another language. Then language structure is again one of the challenges. Idioms and expressions are also become difficult in case of translation. So even though language and literature and culture, even though these are interrelated, and the interdependence of these three upon each other is important from the point of view of globalization, and translation may be one of the ways of entering the realm of culture. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you, Pa. Next, Garima.
Garima, are you ready? This is Paula.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Good morning to all of you. I'm audible?
Yes, Pa. You are audible. Continue.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for to give me this beautiful opportunity. And today my topic is biblical allusions in the novels of Toni Morrison. So let me start. Morrison work follow the theme of womanhood and discrimination faced by the blacks. So it's important to her to mention the spiritual context, as she believes that a person attains freedom only by ending the misery and the suffering occurring by the heavenly qualities like passion, love, humanity, etc. She believes that God created every human being, whether it is woman or man, according to its own need and image. He does not create any gender above and below it. For her work are full of allusions of Bible and all the connected with the biblical names, parables, and all many more things. Bible says that every person is equal and we should together try to live harmony each other and build a temple of God. She is seen prophetic writer and who used American history to record prophecies with her novels. She is being a torchbearer trying to American history to record prophecies with her novels. She is a torchbearer trying to enlighten the meaningless existence of them. She talks about injustice and indiscrimination faced by the American peoples. In her first novel, The Bluest Eye, she reflects the intentions of Bibles and which
Garima,
she was hopeful.
Garima,
Yes, ma'am?
Can you show me your face, my dear? We want that video to be recorded.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
For the documentation purpose, we want that video to be recorded. Please.
I'm not able to. My video is not able, ma'am.
Yes, I couldn't see your face. Bharati, can you see her face?
Ma'am, we can see her, ma'am. We can see her.
Okay. Carry on.
Okay, let me start.
Yes, she is visible with
in her first novel, The Bluest Eye, when Piccola was being raped by her father, after losing her individual identity, she engaged herself with the work of washing dishes and the cleansing, the metaphorical meaning of trying to cleanse her own soul, and writer compare the idea of sacrificing lamb as she herself became a victim of all the sins and corruption prevailing in the society. Another character which bears the allusion of Bible is Pauline Breedlove, who is more engaged and after life always wanted to escape from the earthy and materialistic life. The biblical character which bears the same story of Piccola is Job. Job, a wealthy landowner and bedazzled with the Satan, but the God consultation lose everything that he hold most dear in his life, try to find the reason of difficulties in her life. Piccola too in her life burdened with so much bad treatment in her life, even though she does not deserve that treatment. Morrison in her second novel, Sula, expressed existence of evil. Sula is a story can see the reversion of Cain's story in Bible. Though Sula does not commit any fratricide like Cain and she involved in killing the little chickens, though accidentally. Cain and Abel, the son of Adam and Eve, give a sacrifice to God, and God is blessed with the sacrifice of Abel. Due to the Cain get jealous from his own brother, which ultimately make him kill his brother. Like Cain, she does not mourn on their death. The writer faced preference of mythical biblical allusions in different contexts of different ages. The Song of Solomon bears the little Bible story with the same name, the story of two lovers, King Solomon and his black Shula, Might Bride. Similarly, in the Morrison talk, the earthy love and gives the character biblical name in order to compare with the mythical heroes and warriors with the experience of beyond every boundaries. The work Beloved is full of biblical allusions with the Sati is the main protagonist where her name is meaning the feminine form of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve. Most critics believe that the Beloved is a reincarnation of that baby and evident through many instances in the novels, and reincarnation is similar to the resurrection of the Jesus Christ, the discrimination of motherhood reborn with the very strong novel. To conclude, I will go with her novels, The Paradise. Paradise is full of the Christian doctrine, allowing the readers to look critically, having various philosophies it's around. The protagonist of this work is Ruby, who is self-sufficient apart from the white racist society, and there is a conflict brewing up the town under the slogan Community Oven. Various outcast people were lied to, whose names is Divine, Grace, and also Consolator, man killed by the Ruby man, but their bodies are disappeared before the burial. This disappearing of the body.
Garima. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Conclusion, please.
Okay, ma'am. To conclude, the disappearing of the bodies tends to make the people believe the God must have taken their servants, and they are taken to Garden of Eden, the place of freedom. And Morrison depicts the town people of Ruby and Eden.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Next, M. Premalata.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I start, ma'am?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Okay.
Time starts now, 11:43.
Yes. Ma'am, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Your slide is visible.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. And my topic of this presentation is the exposition of cultural identities in Bodhi Mukherjee's Jasmine. Geographically, the story begins in India and takes off from Europe to America, where it bounces back and forth from Florida to New York to proceed lower. And finally, the protagonist lands in California. This paper deals with the themes related to Indian women, particularly the problem of cross-cultural crisis and ultimate search for identity. She also depicts the cultural clash between the East and the West. In the novel Jasmine, Bharati Mukherjee takes up the themes of search for identity to tackle the flaws of culture and hard work to assume a new identity in America. And she begins to struggle hard to achieve it. And at last, she realizes that self-independence is not to be an Indian or American, but to be at peace with herself. The protagonist was born as Jyoti in the village of Hasnapur in the district of Punjab 18 years after the partition riots. Her mother wanted her to be killed when she was born because she did not want her daughter to suffer the pains of dowryless bride. As a girl child, she was almost strangled to death, but Jasmine escaped from the attack. It could be seen that she had the capacity of struggle, survive, and establish her true life. Her childhood memories became the instrument in her fight against fate and her search for self-identity. Jyoti has the distinction of being the most beautiful and clever in the family. She was dominated by her father and brothers, who considers female child as cattle. She always tried to rise herself above blind belief and superstition. Jyoti's ambition and desires were never accepted by her parents. However, she achieved a small part of her dream by falling in love and marrying Prakash, who is a young and ambitious engineer. He encourages Jyoti to study English and so symbolically gives her a new life and a new name. After getting new identity, Jasmine is aware of her husband's obsession. Jasmine's happiness is short-lived because of the death of her husband. She decided to spend the rest of her life in America to achieve her dreams. Jyoti smuggled herself into the new United States. Illegally, Jasmine waves between the past and the present, attempting to come to terms with the two worlds. There she was rescued by Lillian Gordon, an elderly social worker. She takes care of her and will provide her food and shelter. Then Jasmine again started continuing her symbolic trip of transformations, displacement, and the search for identity. Her advice helped Jasmine physically and mentally. Jasmine's brief sojourn at the home of her husband's professor, Devinder Vadera, is marked by her treatment as widow, and she is also excluded from participation in the family. She was ill-treated in that house, so she decided to leave that house. This move indicated that self-actualization was developing in her life, and it might be due to Americans' way of thinking and dressing. Jasmine's introduction to Taylor, a professor at Columbia University, she becomes a day mommy to Taylor's daughter, Duff. Jasmine undergoes her next transformation from a dutiful traditional Indian wife, Jasmine, to Jace. Later, she went to Iowa and met another benefactor, Mrs.
Rema, Rema, can you
Yes, ma'am.
give the gist of your paper, my dear? Can you conclude?
Yes, ma'am, I'll conclude.
You are dealing with cross-cultural crisis. Can you conclude with,
yes,
with your views on this particular piece, particular novel? Can you conclude?
Yes, ma'am. I conclude my paper. The surrounding environments influence her formation of her identities, thereby resulting in the multiplicity of consciousness. Hence, Bharati Mukherjee's Jasmine is the movement of Jasmine's life towards achieving true identity. Her journey to America is a process of her quest for identity of true self. Even when the protagonist goes through the worst experience of her life, she is able to come through the obstacles and attain self-awareness and a new identity and overthrows her past life. Thank you, ma'am.
Good, very good.
Yes, the next presenter, Reslia MS. And one more note I want to tell you. Without seeing the paper, can you present it? Because that is what we called presentation, presenting a paper. Just we need your outline. It is your own work, just we need the outline, that's it.
Okay, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. My kind request is not to read the paper. Instead of reading the paper, kindly give your own brief on your work.
Okay, ma'am. Sure.
Just a brief. That's okay.
Good morning, all. My topic is A Quest for Survival, a humanistic reading on Bernard Malamud's The Assistant. Bernard Malamud is an important Jewish American author. His writings have a universal appeal. He presents the trauma and suffering of the Jew, whether he is a European, American, or Israeli. And one of his famous assertions is that every man is a Jew. It tends to suggest that he looked upon Jew as a paradigm of human values and not a creature of a particular tribe. And he himself once observes that I wrote about Jew because I know something about them. Now we will move on some aspects of the novel The Assistant. Bernard Malamud's novel The Assistant tells a story of a poor Jewish grower named Maurice Bober and his gentle assistant Frank Alpine. For Maurice, suffering is an unfortunate but necessary part of life. Through suffering, one is in position to spiritually transcend the pain and see the meaningful, absolute thing about life. Both the characters suffer intensely with the course of the novel. When the novel begins, Frank and his partner Ward Minogue made a robbery in Maurice's shop and knock him down with a blow to the top, and consequently he falls down conscious. However, Frank repents his act because he is not that very bad rebound, and thus he voluntarily becomes Maurice's assistant without any condition. He torn between his tendency to try and do bad and his desire to try and go good. It's the honest lifetime Maurice. And now we will have a look upon the three important major characters of the novel, that is Frank Alpine, Maurice Bober, and Helen. Just an analysis of all these three characters. Maurice Bober is one of the moral center of this novel. He is a kind and generous person who believes that people should sympathize with each other and not lie to each other. Maurice is an ironic hero despite the fact that he was a supporter of the novel. He did not get anything important of won big battles. Maurice's character was determined by an implicit change in the hand given to him. This is a hand characterized by economic difficulties and the death of a beloved son, but Maurice accepted it without much difficulty. And the other character is Frank Alpine. He is perhaps the most important person in the novel. He is the assistant that indicates in the title of the novel. Frank has evolved from a rude character into a man of kindness and elegance that motivates the movement of the novel. In the haste against Maurice Bober, Frank arrives to a braver store to reward him for a grocery store. At the same time, Frank's actions have some aspects and they are trying to punish themselves for mistakes. And the other character is Helen Bober. She is Maurice Bober's daughter, character within the novel incorporates a classic name that does not reflect her Yiddish background. Helen's name evokes the thought of ancient Greece. Like Helen of Troy, Helen Bober may be a figure that men become interested in. Furthermore, Helen's name suggests her desire to check the classics in herself, a desire that has been triggered by her family's poverty. Helen may be a dreamer. She does not always accurately understand people when she meets them.
Thank
Her
you,
strong longing to
Raslia.
escape poverty
Raslia?
initiated her life.
Raslia, ma'am, can I
Okay,
have
ma'am,
your
I
conclusion?
conclude.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, I conclude. Yeah, I conclude my topic. Humanistic value of suffering as a way towards man's embodiment and enlightenment are the general theme of Malamud's work. In the Jewish view, man is both with the nature of to sin, but he can redeem himself by his own effort. The possibility of redemption lies in his hand. There is a dignity and moral growth out of hardship, injustice, and existential agony. Malamud continues to emphasize the fundamental worth of life and possibility of humanity. Thank you. Thanks to the team. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation on time. Okay. Dabra Rajesh. Dabra Rajesh, are you online?
This is Scholar. Are you ready? You can call the next participant.
Nitin Kumar.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you ready, Pa?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Please.
Yes, madam. I am presenting my screen. Is my screen visible, madam?
Not visible. Yeah, it is visible.
Okay, madam. Good morning to all. My topic is the existential elements in Arun Joshi's The Foreigner and Anita Desai's Fire on the Mountain, a study in comparison. The objective of the paper is the present paper focuses on critically finding out the existential elements like alienation, Rootlessness, Despair, Search for Self, Anxiety, Death and Detachment in The Foreigner by Arun Joshi and Fire on the Mountain by Anita Desai. It also tries to make a comparison between the protagonists in the Averroy and Nanda Kaul and their existential conditions in the novel. So first of all, it's need to have what existentialism is. Existentialism is a philosophical and literary approach that emerged in the writings of several 19th and 20th century philosophers such as Friedrich Nietzsche, Martin Heidegger, Soren Kierkegaard, Albert Camus, and Jean-Paul Sartre. It was historically and culturally originated in Europe that focuses on the individual human being's experience of recognition of triumph over the meaninglessness of existence, as stated by Morner, K. and Ross. About some of the themes of existentialism, S.P. Swain quotes, man's autonomy, assertion of his objective self, his flouting of reason and rationality, his denial of traditional values, institutions and philosophy, his exercise of will and freedom, and his experience of the absurdity and nothingness of life. So such kind of themes can be found in existentialism. I have selected two writers. One is Arun Joshi. Arun Joshi is an Indian writer. He has written 5 novels, The Foreigner, 2, The City and River, and a short story collection also, The Survivor. And he was given Sahitya Academy Award for the novel The Last Labyrinth. Second novelist is Anita Desai, whose chief concern is human predicament. The project that she has chosen to study psychological terrain of Indian women who have anyhow been neglected by their own people or society. She has written many novels, starting from Cry the Peacock to The Fasting Feasting. She is more involved in depicting the mental rather than physical experiences of her character. The existential elements in The Foreigner. The Arun Joshi's The Foreigner 1968 novel is a very compelling existential work which examines in depth the problems of the protagonist in the Averroy, who suffers from a strange feeling of loneliness and aloofness throughout the entire novel. Yes, ma'am.
Conclusion, please, sir.
Yes, madam. There are many instances in the novel in which we can find that Sindhi is feeling rootless and alienated. Same is the case with Fire on the Mountain by Anita Desai. The Fire on the Mountain is divided in 3 parts. Nanda Kaul at Carignano, Raka comes to Carignano, and Iladas leaves Carignano. These 3 characters, Nanda, Raka, and Iladas, are also existential characters. I have tried to make a comparison between the 2 protagonists in the Averroy and Nanda Kaul. They seem to be affected by existential aspects, but in a different manner. Arun Joshi's writing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's almost time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Very kind of you. So sweet. Okay, next, Shweta Chowdhury. Shweta Chowdhury.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible? Am I visible?
Yeah, you are audible. You are also visible. Nice to see you. Carry on, ma'am.
Same here, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. Shall I start my paper?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Yeah. The title of my paper is Language, Gender and Power in the Awakening by Kate Chopin. So Kate Chopin is an American fiction writer, and she was writing in 1890s. So this was her work, The Awakening, in which she is discussing more about the power which women exerts when they are terrified by the patriarchal norms. So the paper will discuss the role of language, of gender and power in the novel, The Awakening. Language is a powerful tool of expression, as we all know, an exhibition of emotions and exuberance of energy. Women since infancy are silenced into submission and strict specification of social sanctions for the future and compulsive roles of wife and mother. So women, somehow they are put into shackles by the patriarchal norms, and this patriarchy, they all in the form of culture or in the form of language as per se. When you see the male writers writing about women, they shackle women into a cage kind of thing, and since infancy they are doing this. So women in infancy are silenced and pressurized into submission. Compulsory compliance to conformity and to conventions is challenging to their chosen career for themselves and suffocates their individual instinct to initiate in realms of their taste and temperament. So as far as they are pressurized, they try to break away from that shackles, obstacles which are placed by the patriarchy in any form, in form of culture, in form of language, or anything. And gender lowers and douses down their language, daunting them into subordinate status. Humans are superior to animal primarily by language, by snatching the right of expression and speech. Women are underrated to the level of animal, giving men the right to master them like animal, tilting power scale in favor of men. And men or patriarchy, they want that arena of women where they where they are subjugated, where the language is no longer theirs, and words are put into the mouth of the women, so that they will not defy any conventions that is set by the patriarchal society. Gender specific discrimination and coercion.
Nice, Shweta, nice. We got your points, Shweta. Can I ask next person to present? Thank you, Shweta.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, Rajashekar.
Presenter Rajashekara.
Rajashekara.
I think he is not available. Can I call
next,
upon the next
Jennifer.
one?
Jennifer.
Good afternoon, dignitaries. My paper is Gender Stereotypes in Kaveri Nambison's Mango Colored Fish.
Ma'am, your good name, please, ma'am.
Jennifer, ma'am. Jennifer.
Good, ma. Good, ma.
Yes. The aim of the paper is to expose gender inequality, discrimination, suppression of mind, predominated by the cultural values in Kaveri Nambison's Mango Colored Fish. Kaveri Nambison is a South Indian writer who is also a surgeon, and this Mango Colored Fish is written in 1998. It is a social novel where Shari, the protagonist, is actually engaged to Gautam, but is in love with Naren, a visually challenged physics master. The research findings of the paper is the Shari, the protagonist of the novel, is tossed between the matriarchal rigidity, the dominating mother, and her love for a visually challenged person, where they are not accepted in the culture, conservative society. And she sensed a deep meaning when the fiancé questions, saying that she is very lovable and she could be molded easily, and that is the reason why Gautam wanted to marry Shari. And here, Shari feels that how could a woman be pulled and pushed and elongated like a doll to be a perfect wife? And the conclusions of the paper or the researches, even though the protagonist of the Kaveri Nambison are trapped by the misconceptions and dominating views, they falter initially, but later choose their destiny with their own decisions. And the novel lingers on the independent attitudes where they groom themselves to face the consequences. And thus, all the characters of Kaveri Nambison, they possess the quest to fulfill their aspirations and are emotionally intelligent to manage their depressive passions owing to stereotypes. Thank you, dignitaries.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much. It was very nice. Your brief was very informative. Next, we call upon Rushali Vaishnav.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Just
one thing I want to stress you, Ma. One thing, Shweta Chowdhury, she has done well. That is the that we can take it as a model of presentation. That is what you called presenting your paper. You should not see any. You should not see any paper, any slide. It is your own work, and you have to come out with your own words. So that is purely needed here. That work we can judge. We are here to judge that speaking skill as communication skill. So presenters, please have this in your mind without seeing, without just to give your
You can refer your slides, but not reading the paper. Right?
Because you are all emerging and you know the model of a good presentation. So it is my duty to give you the nice presenters, to show the nice presenters to you. One who did was very nice, Shweta Chowdhury. Really, I want to appreciate that. Remaining all have done well, but the emerging students, the budding people, I want to tell you that. Thank you.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible too?
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. And can you see my screen?
I'm seeing.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, all. Today, I'm Rushali Vaishnav from LDS College, and today my topic for the presentation is cultural contribution of Broadway and West End to the English-speaking world. Drama and theatre arts are the oldest form of performing arts. It has played a very big role in the civilized world in all the cultures from an ancient Greek and Roman to Egyptian to Indus. It also amalgamates music in it. Drama and theatre has contributed to culture, politics, economy, life, which are based on realities. Broadway of New York and West End or Theatreland of London represents the highest form of theatrical performances in the English-speaking world. There are certain commonalities and contrast between them also. Broadway. Now let's see what is the Broadway. Broadway musicals is a synonymous to American theater. Broadway, with 41 theaters with glossy light, began by showing American realism with its social, cultural predicaments, the civil rights, the great American dream, and other themes too. Broadway musicals came into the existence with the classical plays from the greatest playwright, that is William Shakespeare, to American playwrights being performed. Trend is also of the film adaptations like The Mermaid, The Lion King. The Phantom of the Opera is the longest running play with more than 30 years of continuous performances. Broadway is the greatest tourist attraction and generates revenue of more than $3 billion, giving employment to many people. The best shows are given Tony Awards. Off-Broadway has theaters less than 500 capacity, and off-Broadway theaters has less than 100 capacity. Now let's come to the West End. West End historical places of London performing arts performing since 1663 till today. The 39 theatres stage performances from the classical plays to the modern comedies and musicals. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Conclusion part.
Okay, ma'am. Just wait a second. So here I conclude my presentation. Both Broadway and the West End have evolved and changed as per the time. They have stood the test of the time and the slot of radio and motion pictures too. Their contribution to culture, society and arts is very unique and incredible. Broadway and West End are not just the stage performances but also an exclusive experiences for all. Thank you.
Good, ma. Next, I call upon Edel Flora Mary. Thank you. Edel Flora Mary.
Ma'am, am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, you are audible. You are visible.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Just we want the outline of your paper. That's it. Without seeing anything, please.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. And today I'm going to present on the title for Bible study of John Thane, who is a married author, As you know, he works entirely on the Great Depression, and most of his famous works come out from that. We can call it as the Grapes of Wrath, of then NWS Battle and East of Eden are the few influential works which he has written, and I have taken all the 4 works from the author, that is Of Mice and Men, Grapes of Wrath, NWS Battle, and To a God Unknown. In all his works, we can see that how people are being in a great struggle, that is during the period of Great Depression. And what happens is he has brought out certain things like the upper class and the lower class people, how these lower class people are struggling in the hands of the upper class society. And in a thing we can tell it as how American dreams are being shattered in the hands of the upper class people, and how the conflict between the rich and the poor is being brought out. And moreover, in an exact way, it is a shattering of American dream. Next, it is entirely given an idea that the people who are being who cannot be tolerated with the works given by the upper class people, that is, even the menial jobs were given to the people, and it is said that the rich is to administer and the lower class people, that is the poor, is in return to govern. Okay, and here when you see this Grapes of Wrath, the character Tom Joad, what are the problems he faces? What are the problems he faces? And moreover, the author has brought out how the farmers are in a great struggle under the landlords. Next thing is they are enforced, and Tom and neighbors, they feel that how these people are under the higher class society, and in turn they feel that it is an incurable scar for them. And in Of Mice and Men, the conflict between the two main characters, that is the two major characters, George and Lenny, and these two people, they move from one place to another place for their survival, and most probably his works all will be dealing with migration of people from one place to another, that too mainly in the place like California.
Okay, Ma, good, very good. It was nice. Thank you for your presentation, yes. Ma. Then next, yes, shall I call upon Pooja Pradeep Karanya, Head of the Department, BMS College. Pooja Pradeep Karanya. Pooja Pradeep Karanya, Head of the Department.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am.
Can you see, ma'am? Can you see my video?
We can see you, but are you showing your slide?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just trying to show my slide, ma'am. Just
okay,
give me a.
Okay, ma'am.
Due to some technical glitch, I'm not able to show. Can I just present it, ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. My name is Pooja, and I'm from BMS College for Women, and the co-author of the paper is Pallavi. The topic of my paper is a study on women writers of Indian diaspora. To begin with, I would like to tell you all what diaspora exactly means. Diaspora literally means to disperse or to scatter. The word diaspora was originally referred to the dispersal of Jewish from the land of Palestine. They were sent out from the land of Palestine. But after the late of 20th century, the the notion of diaspora was used to refer to the dispersal of any ethnic population that resides in the countries other than their own homeland. Displacement of the population was for various reasons. For example, for the labor that is for migration purposes, that is for refugee purposes, then the dispersal of ideologicals or the religious purposes, for example, dispersal of Muslims, dispersals of Hindus, dispersals of Indians, the dispersal of Sikh people and all. And the dispersal also was due to the victimization of the people. For example, the people of Palestine, for the people of Israel, for the people of Afro-American people also had dispersed from one place to another place due to the victimization. Then talking about the diasporic Indian literature, now coming to the diasporic Indian literature, the Indian diaspora today is one of the largest diaspora in the entire world, and women diasporic writers play a very important role. They are not just writing about the diaspora, but they are also questioning, asserting, and also they are protesting, with the help of their ideas. They describe their migration experiences. They describe the predicaments of the displacement. They also question as well as celebrate their encounter with the new country which they are living.
HOD ma'am, thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Well, thank you. Next, we call upon Nandini Devi. Nandini Devi.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, you are audible, but not visible. Yeah, you are visible. Please carry on.
The screen is visible, ma'am.
Yes, please proceed, ma'am.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nandini Devi, research scholar from Sri Sarda College for Women, Salem. My research paper entitled Varna System, a study in Amish Tripathi's The Immortals of Meluha. The objective of this paper is to find out the impact of Varna system and its outcome in the Indian context through Amish Tripathi's The Immortals of Meluha. The researcher incorporates the allied laws of Indian Constitution and takes an effort to present the importance of unity and equality among people. Immortals of Meluha is the first book of Shiva trilogy, and there the protagonist Shiva, head of tribal community called Gunas, migrates to the city called Meluha. There they found a system called Varna system. Now, what is Varna system? Varna system categorizes people into four main things, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. Hinduism believes that these four are created from the body of Lord Brahma, the god of creation. That is, from his head, Brahmins, and his shoulders, Kshatriyas, and is from his thighs, Vaishyas, and from his feet, Shudras. In the Immortals of Meluha, Shiva once doubts to share his love to his girl called Shati, as he was a tribe. Indian Constitution headed by Honorable Dr. Ambedkar implemented many acts and laws to eradicate caste discrimination, such as Mandal Commission, and there is also a law that anyone can priest in Hindu temples who is a Hindu. To conclude, regardless of the laws, many people are still in the opposite mentality and one-sided loyalty that should be stopped. Nature wants us through disasters and diseases like present pandemic COVID-19. So life is unpredictable and death is inevitable. Let us share love and live a happy life. I quote Swami Vivekananda, who says, ethics is unity, its basis is love. Thank you for the opportunity given. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. Very nice. Next, Beena Kati, scholar. Beena Kati.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Very good. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Audible as well as visible, ma.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present my views. And I'm going to present my views on the topic, the theme of resistance, a critical analysis of Alice Walker's novel, The Color Purple. As we all know, Alice Walker occupies a very important place in not just the African American literature, but also in literature generally. And well, this novel, that is Color Purple, was published in just a moment now, was published in 1982, and it basically talks about the protagonist Sally. Sally's journey from being a submissive, invisible black girl of 14 to an empowered middle-aged woman at the end of the novel. So, as we all know, the African Americans, women in particular, have come a long way. And what Walker has tried to show in this novel is that the womanist stance that she so ardently believed in. The word.
Veena, can you conclude, Ma? Can you give us a brief on your paper?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, very sure, ma'am. Well, the theme of resistance basically comes from initially submitting to those who abuse and assaults her. I'm talking about Sally, the central character. Then gradually discovering her own powers, the hidden powers that she was not aware about, and also through the kind of support, the kind of sisterhood that she receives through the other character like Shug and Sophia, and the individualism, the feeling of that yes, I am also an identity. So she resists this by embracing her individuality, her sexuality, her own personality, and the other characters also contributes in it, as we can see in the story, and that is how she resisted this. First, she submits to it silently. Then slowly within that silence, there was something that wanted to burst out. Though it was a kind of a positive, not negative, but that's something to be on one's own. That was the kind of resistance that we get to see by the end of the novel when she becomes a very successful entrepreneur. She becomes a seamstress, and even she also challenges those gender norms. Also, she sees the clothes for the pants and shirts for women. Thereby, she also kind of discards those gender norms and other things that hinder women from coming out from the shackles of race, gender, and other things. So that is how we see the theme of resistance in this novel.
Fine, good.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Here is an announcement for the participants. Don't get upset. Those who have not joined due to some technical issues, you can join at 2 o'clock. The session will be over at 1 o'clock, and you can join at 2 o'clock. After the presentation only, the valedictory function goes. So don't get upset. You all will get your chance, and you can present your paper with your presentation slides and all. And up to 1 o'clock, we can have the presentation session now. And after 1 to 2, we have the lunch break. And after the lunch, you can gather at 2 o'clock and you can get your paper presented. Don't get upset. Okay? And the next presenter, Bharati, can you call the next presenter, please?
Thank you, ma'am. Next presenter is Shankar Barman.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you visible, ma'am? Hello.
You are visible as well as audible.
Yes.
Achha. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Now I'm Shankar Barman, Assistant Professor of Patrasayer Mahavidyalaya in Bankura of West Bengal. Now I'm presenting on probing into the problems of partition, addressing its impact on the intellectual organization and society. Like other states, of India, West Bengal had also an influence of the partition. And of course, in this case, North Bengal was not an exception. Partition brought about a major change in the field of the thinking process of the intellectual society of North Bengal. But the question arises, how did that change? Primarily, this paper critically tried to find out the answer addressing the pertinent issues related to the phenomenon of partition. There emerged a crisis at the stripe of independence, also a junction of the partition in terms of a stark socio-cultural division. As the nation got divided into fragmented halves, things become topsy-turvy overnight, owing to the rapid degeneration of the situation. Like the entire nation, the Bengali people also underwent a visibly transforming value system, which further affected domains of arts and culture to a large extent. North Bengal was also a distinct participant in this predominant chaos, owing to the freshly constructed post-map. The Hindu Jomindars from East Bengal, with their remaining assert, immigrated to the other half, in this case, the area of North Bengal. In this paper, there has been made an attempt to consider the gradual transition to the intellectual organization at the wake of partition. I shall also take to account the effect of the cultural loss of the organization across the beyond of the border of the neighboring Bengals. Inhabitants from the districts of Rangpur, Pabna, Bogura, and Rajshahi underwent this trauma of immigration, and in the process lost their cultural unity and integrity, focusing solely on their regular subsistence. The erudite middle class, Hindu educational, otherwise the cultural epicenter of the society, also got severely affected due to
Excuse
this
me, sir. Conclusion, please, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Therefore, this is the tested regarding the interrelationship between art, literature, and culture, and intellectual organization and thinking of the erudite society at the backdrop of the historical wreck of the population. Thank you, everyone.
He is from Department of History.
I'm Department of History from the Patrasayer Mahavidyalaya. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you,
Next participant.
Next, Lubna Olasari Kalam Tode.
She is also a research scholar. Lubna, can we call the next participant? Uzma Javid. Uzma.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you present your paper?
Yeah, ma'am. I'm ready. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, Pa, you are audible.
Can you? Okay, ma'am. I'm going to start. I'm Uzma Javed, and I'm a research scholar, Department of English, and I'm from Meerut. And my topic is Representation of Corruption by Chinua Achebe's No Longer at Ease. It's a novel of Chinua Achebe. The present paper aims to deliver the issue of corruption in Chinua Achebe's novel, No Longer at Ease. Achebe's No Longer at Ease, published in 1960, shows the effects of colonization on the Nigerian people after the post-colonization and describe the collapses of a protagonist's life as the fails to make any changes and make him fall into a trap by himself. Achebe shows how Nigerian people are deeply affected by the European culture, and they think it is a kind of superiority to follow the European lifestyle, but also at the same time they are losing their own values and culture. The novel shows the binary relation among the characters and shows how Western culture has created a stereotypical image of a African into the minds of a people, which results into the culture has created a, values and culture has created a stereotypical image of Africa into the minds of a people, which results into an inferiority complex into the mind of African. The political corruption which results after the post-independence is a key of feature to note, and how the protagonist who wants to fight against post-independence is a key of feature to note, and how the protagonist who wants to fight against such evilness cannot be able to cope up with the financial crisis and become a corrupted man. Corruption is brought by the Western culture into the Nigeria and a post-colonial problem. Language is seen as an instrument which holds a special place into the lives of an Igbo people and showcases the kinship and brotherhood of.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you give us something about your paper without seeing?
Sorry,
Without reading anything, can you give us the crux of the paper, the gist of your paper, what you did?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, it's a keywords in corruption. My topic is keywords is corruption, colonization, injustice, alienation, marginality, culture clashes, and decolonization.
Okay, fine. Thank you for your presentation, ma.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Next, we call upon Shaukat Hussain Dar.
Sadaf is there. Sadaf
I am there, ma'am. Sadaf Zama.
That is the 25th participant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I start?
Sadaf?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Continue.
Okay, so can I share my screen? Can you see my screen, ma'am?
It is visible.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Sadaf Zama, research scholar, Kulhan University, Chaibasa. The co-presenter of this presentation is Ms. Neha Tiwari, HOD, Department of English, Karim City College, Kulhan University. I'm going to read about Shakespearean masterpiece through Bollywood lens. Not taking much of your time, ma'am. I will just, William Shakespeare needs no formal introduction to people listening to me right now. So William Shakespeare has contributed so much that we cannot count, but just to select or discuss few, I have taken up few movies which are there in Bollywood. Few directors have taken up few of his works as his movies. The first one for which I will talk about is Maqbool. That one was the work of adaptation of Macbeth by Indian director Vishal Bharadwaj. Okay, so Shakespeare's classic tale of selfishness and ambition. The next movie was Angur by Shakespeare's work Comedy of Error, and till now it is marked as the finest Hindi comedy films of all the time. The next movie was Omkara. It is an award-winning movie, and it was adapted from the work of Shakespeare, Othello, and it was again adapted by Vishal Bharadwaj. The next movie is Hamlet, movie made by Hamlet was a work done by Shakespeare and adapted by Farha Khan for Om Shanti Om. The only thing different was in Hamlet, the son took the revenge of his father's death, and here Om, the protagonist, took the revenge of his beloved Shanti's mother. And the next movie is Dil Bole Harippa. It is also from the 12th Night adapted, and it is pure comedy. And the next and the last one for this is Romeo Juliet's portrayal in Ishaqzade. Romeo Juliet's new adaptation is in the form of Ishaqzade, set up against the cultural context of Hindi hinterland, where the weapons still run the roost, and is the ability to take it and fire it defines a person's social status in society. I would like to conclude that Shakespeare has passed, I think, more than, it's now 450 years, and till now he is contributing in cinemas, in theaters, in other fields, and he is still alive irrespective of caste, religion, creed, or language. And his craft looks so fresh and new to present audience, which is really a commendable job. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. Shakespeare's themes are universal. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Bharati, can you call the next?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Shaukat Hussain Da. Next person.
Shaukat.
Shaukat. He is not available. Anil Kumar Swadeshi.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
May I know your good name, please, sir?
Anil Kumar Sudesi. I teach at PGDAB Evening College, Delhi, New Delhi. And I'm going to present a paper, and the title of that paper is Individual, Social and Gender Conflicts in Margaret Atwood's Surfacing a Critical Analysis. I will be talking about the basic idea behind this particular paper, but I try to explain in this paper. The paper attempts to examine individual, social and gender conflicts existing in Margaret Atwood's surfacing. It also tries to understand how individual conflict, which lies within an individual or with the external world, leads to social conflict and how it creates social disharmony and tries to subvert the social order and wants to avenge upon the society as a whole, leaving the cause of the conflict far away. The paper also tries to understand how gender conflict influences the individual and society both, and how an individual of one gender wants to avenge upon the other gender and society both. It also tries to analyze how these three conflicts, which exist simultaneously in the novel, are interrelated to each other, and how the whole story revolves around these conflicts. And in conclusion, it emerges from the discussion that all three conflicts are intimately connected to each other, and it has been represented through an unnamed character to show the existence of such conflicts as a common issue. So this was the idea behind this paper I wanted to talk about.
Did you, sir?
Hello.
The conclusion was done. That's it?
Yes, yes.
Okay, kind of. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Correa.
Who is the next presenter?
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Susanna Correa. May I begin to present the paper?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my paper is titled Racism and Racial Profiling in Malanand's novel, A Beautiful Place to Die. I had done this for my detective fiction module as a term paper, and I have converted it into a presentable paper for today. What makes this paper different, although it deals with a very common theme of racism, is that this book has three races in conflict rather than just, the whites and the blacks. It has the Afrikaner whites, it has the British whites, and it has the South African blacks in conflict. And this is done from the perspective of crime fiction. So racial profiling is when we assume that a person's likelihood to have committed criminal offenses can be determined based on the racial or ethnic background. And this process is intensified because we are looking at a time period when apartheid was in full force, and also racial segregation laws and marriage prohibition laws. So these attitudes and policies, they interfere with the resolution of crime. So as I said, the three ethno-linguistic groups, the British, the Afrikaners, and the Zulu, are in conflict with each other. They have strained relations. But the two white groups enjoy economic and...
Susanna,
yes,
Susanna, okay, thank you for your presentation. Kindly follow the decorum. Please kindly change your DP, Susanna. Some otherly care and in this for this academic purpose, you should not use this kind of DP. Thank you, Susanna. Next, I call upon Antoinette Rihanna. Antoinette Rihanna is there? No?
She is from Stella Maris.
Yeah. Antoinette Rihanna? No. Namra Rizvi?
She's from Uttar Pradesh.
No.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Am I audible and visible?
Your good name, please. Namra Rizvi.
Yes, I am Namra Rizvi.
Okay, okay, please.
Am I audible and visible?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. My paper is upon conventional womanhood, how the writers, female writers especially, challenge the conventional womanhood. See, the state of being a woman is something which is pre-decided by the norms of society and the men. If you have compassion, then you are a woman. If you have no compassion, you are discarded from the regular notion of being womanhood. Compassion is no doubt make a person good and a much human, but it is not a criteria, and it shouldn't be a criteria to judge a person as a female. There are few writers like Ismat Chugtai and Begum Ruqayya who challenge this norm by creating their characters in such a challenging way. So I want to quote Judy Berman here. Bad girls are not villains. They are transgressive forces within patriarchal culture made to choose between wrecking, destruction, and adapting their own powerlessness. They pick destructions. So the saying is somehow describing that the risk and the challenges by a woman make her self-confident and a person which is a strong in a way. And women are molesting, and they are feeling bad by the society because of their own decisions. Somehow they take some decision and let the people bully them, let the people burden them with responsibilities, and this is the way they show their care for the society. So this is a paper where I am going to describe this thing, how Ismat Chugtai and Begum Ruqayya challenge this. Women in India have always been subjugated and exploited since years. Ismat and Begum Ruqayya were the two who became the voice of many unheard females, and this is the reason that how in present time many females are asking for their rights. This is why, because they have not only their voices, they also have some other female writers' voices who called for themselves and who stand for their rights. This statement clearly indicates the mentality of women at that time, where a woman hardly understands the feeling of the fellow gender. Doesn't matter it is her own daughter or any neighbor. They never speak to and even try to speak for the change. And now women started to ask for their right, and it is the common for a woman, if she did so, to hear, don't be like Ismat, or don't talk like a way Mrs. R.S. Hussain used to. And with the saying of Tahira Naqvi that Ismat was at her best when she wrote about ordinary people, especially women, unquote, I want to end and conclude my paper here. If you have any query regarding this paper, please put a question into the chat box and I will answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Next, good, very good. Next, Dr. Prasanjit Panda. Yes, you can present next to Dr. Prasanjit Panda, Antoinette Rihanna. Antoinette Rihanna, you can present next to Dr. Prasanjit Panda. Is it okay? No, Dr. Prasanjit Panda is not there. Okay, next. Antoinette Rihanna, are you ready now? Or shall I call upon the next person?
Can I present now, ma'am?
Yeah. If you are ready, please proceed.
Okay, so good afternoon to all and all present here. This is Antoinette Rihanna. I'm a student at St. Mary's College, and my paper is titled Marxism and its Implication in Thomas Hood's The Song of the Shirt. Marxism is a school of thought that employs historical materialism to grasp class dynamics and social struggle, and also the dialectical viewpoint of social change. Marx wanted a classless society because capitalism contributed to the degradation and enslavement of the working class community, which he referred to as the proletariat. He was one of the first social analysts to work on the ideas of Enlightenment writers, attempting to combine the philosophical and empirical traditions into an overall structure of thought that makes theoretical sense and is empirically rooted. This poem portrays a strong image of the struggles and challenges of the working class community. This is shown by the sadistic working conditions and the poor wages that they receive. The poem is a plea as well as a complaint by poor working proletariat. One can apply the Marxist theoretical concept to have a better insight to this field. The poem starts off with a note where the woman is very tired, weary, and worn out, and her eyelids are heavy and red. This indicates that the woman has been working in an inhumane condition. Even upon working, it seems that she doesn't get paid off really well, and she is seen wearing rags and is in poverty, hunger, and dearth, implying that she is in a proletariat, and applying Marxism theoretical concepts here. It is seen that she is a victim of surplus labor. It was then that the workers were made to realize that it was when the workers were made to work for a long extra hours and with no proper wage, and while being paid only for a limited number of official hours. Richard Ormerod writes, Marx observed that the employer, by virtue of his superior economic power, was able to make agreements with his workers which were not determined by the number of hours they worked. Since the proletariat has been working in a inhuman condition, it means that she has been treated and observed as a commodity rather than a human being. She's not a victim of surplus labor alone, but also a victim of reification. She was seen as a commodification of labor, implying that she was seen as an object, which was essentially a new form of slavery. A victim of reification was not treated as a human being, and also the victim would receive make-up pay, which is exactly the case regarding this proletariat who is seen working in a sewing company. The repetition of the word work in the poem emphasizes that the woman is working continuously without any break. The song that she sings seems to be the only way where she can find rest and express her thoughts and feelings.
Rihanna, can you please conclude, my dear?
Oh, sure, ma'am. Thomas Hood beautifully captures this capitalistic society in this poem and how the bourgeois exploit the proletariats. Many other concepts like alienation, interpolated subjects, and surplus value can be seen in this poem. I would like to conclude by saying that this poem was analyzed with a Marxism theoretical concept and it could and many other comprehensive studies on these and related problems hope to provide better guidance to the ideals of Marxism and its inferences. Thank you.
Good. Good, Pa.
Next,
Bhakia Sama, Associate Professor, NMS College for Women, Madurai. Bhakia Sama.
Dr. Prasenjit is not ready. And can we call upon ICELLC-20 Bala?
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. ICELLC-20 Bala.
Okay, thank you.
She's a student.
You are audible.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm ICELLC-20 Bala. I'm doing my second UG in English literature. Today, I'll be talking about the development of drama during Elizabethan age. The reign of Queen Elizabeth is considered as one of the most prominent eras as it had its significance in art, literature, music, and culture. This era is most famous for the existence of theatre. Queen Elizabeth, who is known as one of the most greatest monarchs, encouraged the formation of theatre and acting. People like William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, who consider as the important figures, belong to this particular era. I would like to talk about the development of drama. First, the origin of drama started from Greece and later it was developed in England. The theme was mostly religious. The development of drama was to emphasize moral values to the people. Slowly, this period started making transition from medieval to modern world. Actors who performed near the churches and yards started to perform in open stages. Because of the open platform, the contact between the actors and audience was more close. Slowly, the first theatre called the Theatre was built, and in 1599 came the famous theatre called the Keynote. The Elizabethan theatres were open to all classes of people. Queen Elizabeth, who was considered as a great supporter of art and culture, encouraged many theatrical activities. Revival of classic knowledge and Roman drama led to the development of realistic form of drama. People were influenced by the fashion and clothing that were worn by the actors. Historical plays were popular. Due to the development of Greek and Italian plays, people came in connection with other culture and tradition. I would like to conclude by saying that the Elizabethan era is a very significant era.
Aishwarya, sorry for the interruption. Your audio is not clear. Can you please check?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Am I audible now?
Now you are audible.
Yes. People were influenced by the fashion and clothing that were worn by the actors of the play. Historical plays were popular during the Elizabethan era. And lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that the Elizabethan era is a very significant era in the history, and it is rightly called the golden age of English literature. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll just interrupt you for a moment. At 1, we will take a break for an hour, and we will resume at 2. So if you have time, you can allow one more presenter to present, and then you can.
One more presenter is there. She can finish, and I had a message that Prasenjit Panda is on the way, and he will be here within 5 minutes. And until the last presenter gives her presentation, he will join, and he will be the last presenter of this morning session, it seems, ma'am.
Okay, so should we have one more and then we can close the session?
Yes, one more. Priyanka Bala, are you ready? The last presenter.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Am I audible?
You can present your paper.
Am I audible?
Good morning, Pa. Please proceed, Pa.
Yes, ma'am. A very good afternoon to everyone. This is Priyanka Bala from the Department of English, currently pursuing her PhD in English language teaching. Here I am to present with the topic on the strategies that can be used to reduce mother tongue influence in English language teaching. English is one of the required languages that gives the skills necessary to advance in a career in any field. So having good English language skills could benefit oneself for applying a new job or a promotion by being proficient English speaker. So the ability to express fluently both in written and in oral form is very much essential for the career growth, and English being the most used language in corporate world, the knowledge of English is one of the important employability skills. One of the major selection criteria for the candidates in the interviews is the ability to speak fluently in English. And one of the major barriers of good communication skills is the mother tongue influence in English language. Here I am to present with the paper on the strategies to reduce the mother tongue influence in English language teaching. Mother tongue influence is all about the impact of your mother tongue, the impact of your first language. So when we learn our first language, we begin to think in our first language. So when we learn English, it interferes with our learning the first language, and that's why we are not able to speak English in a neutral accent. To reduce mother tongue influences, all you need to do is to take few steps that can help reduce and improve the accent of good English language. So it is not easy, but simple. The suggestive methods.
Okay, kind of you, Priyanka Bala.
Yes, ma'am.
You can
the conclusion,
summarize your paper.
Yes, ma'am. So the 5 suggestive steps that I recommend is to improve the listening skills, to think in English, to practice regularly to speak and record the speech of the the candidates to improve their mother tongue, to overcome the mother tongue influence. Also to listen to your own voice and speech to improve on it. And last but not the least,
all the best for your research work. Thank you, Priyanka. Shall I call upon next Dr. Prasenjit Panda? He is waiting.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Yeah.
Am I?
Sir.
Am I audible, ma'am?
You are audible as well as visible, sir. Glad to meet you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me the chance to speak on.
Can I interrupt for a moment, sir?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember me, but I was your student once.
Ritushri, I know you, that you had been a student for 2 days.
Oh my God.
And you left the university and joined Santiniketan. So I'm totally agree.
No, very, very welcome to you, sir. It's a small world. I'm so glad you are here. Welcome.
Thank you, Ritu.
I'll let you finish your presentation, sir. Please go on.
Yeah. Actually, I had a presentation that's scheduled, from 2 to 4, and I was driving. So suddenly, Balakrishnan sir called me that you may miss that very session, and so I'm here. The thing is that I don't have my papers here.
It's okay.
Whatever I know,
you will rock anyway. I know it.
Yeah. Thank you. So nice of you.
Okay.
So my topic is the Gita Mehta's Ariva Sutra and on a postmodern passage on eco-critical frame. So that's my paper, where actually I have analyzed that how Gita Mehta is using that eco-critical framework, and under that he sees presenting a postmodern passage. We already know about that, what actually postmodern passage is, that when you are making a collage of several narratives, when you are making a collage of several analysis, probably several discourses, and then you are leaving the audience, leaving the readers in a kind of a perplexed world where they cannot understand that what to choose and what not to choose. So this is kind of a pastiche, it's a kind of a pastiche, irony of the truth. So she was presenting through the Riva Sutra. Basically, if you go for that very novel, you can find that it's all about the river Narmada, and in that bank of Narmada, we can find, several people are coming. There are 6 stories are there. So people are coming there and they are, performing their rituals, and they are purifying themselves. So there are, small stories are there. I'm not going to tell you that. But what actually Gita Mehta wants to convey through this, through this Riva Sutra is that she was not only presenting eco-critical things, that actually the story which is based on the river, on the water, why this environmental humanities is necessary for nowadays world, but in a postmodern way. So what is that postmodern way? Because she was, simultaneously she was giving or presenting a kind of a Derridian alternative, or probably substitution or alternative to everything, even in the religion. Even you can find that in Narmada, it's not about the religion she was seeking for, or probably all the characters they are seeking for. Rather, they were performing the rites, performing the rituals on the bank of river of Narmada as a kind of a myth, or probably kind of an oral or folk traditions. So thereby, it's all not about the spirit, not about the particular religion is approached here or addressed here. Rather than she was presenting a spirituality which doesn't have any stigma to any religion, particular religion. So that's why even in a Muslim a Sufi, the Tariq Mia is a character. She's omnipresent. Everywhere he is there, and he was presenting a kind of a view which is actually amalgamating or mixing both the religion, probably several religion. That's a religion is Hinduism, tantric religion, and Shaivism, and you can find Jainism, even kind of Muslim Sufism. You can find several religion, but she was not particularly telling that which path you need to tell, which path you need to trade on to find out the humanity. So she was presenting a kind of a humanity in the religion as a form of a religion, and she was giving a kind of an alternative view to the life. Is it okay? So you can find, there are several things out there. There are several narratives out there. In each and every character, each and every they are all telling their own stories, and those stories are woven by one single thread that is the Narmada. So you can find that Narmada is not a character here. Rather than Narmada is a kind of a narrative, a discourse where the other discourse are surrounded, or probably they were looming large, and thereby they were getting analyzed, and they are getting the meaning in their life. So in Riva Sutra, it's a kind of a postmodern passage. She was not telling any meaning on that. She was not giving any information, or probably any particular interpretation to the Riva Sutra. Rather, she was presenting a different connotations, or different meanings, a different myth, and different present scenario, and thereby making a collage. And it depends upon the reader, my dear students, or probably my dear readers, what to take and what not to take in the path of humanity. So thank you very much. For a nutshell, this is what actually I can say here. Thank you.
Anil Kumar, have you presented Anil Kumar?
This is Prasenjit Panda, ma'am. I have completed one.
Okay. And one person, Labna. Labna is there waiting?
Yes, Labna is waiting.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Dr. Anil Kumar.
Present this Pandit sir.
Yes,
Bharati.
Yes.
Anil Kumar, did he finish his presentation? Anil Kumar.
Anil Kumar, yes.
Oh, he hadn't finished. Anil Kumar, he hadn't finished. Prasenjit, he has finished. Oh, Labna, are you ready, Labna?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yes, you can start your presentation.
Okay. I'm Lubna from Karuna Institute of Science and Technology. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are able to hear
you. My topic is confessional poetry essay therapy. My attempt here is to explore confessional poetry essay therapy. And I have selected 3 poets, Anne Saxton, Sylvia Plath, and Edwin Rich. My attempt here to explore confessional poetry essay therapy in the light of Julia Kristeva's depressive discourse. Kristeva in her Black Sun says that a depressed person cannot communicate through normal language, and she finds a new poetic language, that is depressive discourse. That is, depressive person can communicate through poetic language, through images, figures of speech, etc. And for example, Anne Saxton poetry is a self-healing. Her first book, To Bedlam and Partway Back, dealt with mental illness. And Sylvia Plath confesses, she is a famous American confessional poet who has expressed her own feelings, her relationship with father, mother, husband, society in a confessional mode. And the term confession was adopted by psychiatrists. And while trying to ascertain the cause of a patient's neurosis, here the doctor makes him to confess or to narrate the incident to purge the buried experience. Hence, confessionalism is a process of therapy. Hello. We know life is full of emotional ups and downs, but when the downturns are lasting, person may be suffering from a common but serious psychological problem, depression. Here, my attempt here is to grieving through poetry is a healthy way to deal with the loss of someone special. Poets have soothed many raging feelings over the years and brought peace with their words. Hence, confessional poetry has a therapeutic value for healing the depression. Thank you.
Yes, you are with your child. You are with your child, Labna?
Hello.
A baby voice is there.
Yes, it seems.
Junior Labna is also participating in the international conference. Very happy. Very happy to see her. Or his presentation. He or she?
She.
Good.
Okay.
God bless her. God bless her. Very good. Bharati ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
You please give the announcement that feedback for both sessions.
Everybody has done well. All the best for the presenters. It's almost time for winding up the.
Can we get the instruction from the moderator?
Yes, of course.
Ma'am. Dr. Balakrishnan, can we wind up the session now with your permission? Who is the moderator, ma'am?
Madam, yes, madam, we can wind up, madam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you for the participants.
Thank you. Happy New Year. All the best.
We shall meet by 2 o'clock. You will get the link.
The remaining participants
can 2 o'clock again.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you very much, ma'am. You have been an excellent host, reduced half of my work. And it is such a, such a beautiful session that I was totally engrossed into it. I was taking notes like a student.
Yes.
So thank you. And I heartily want to congratulate all the presenters for their wonderful presentation. And I hope to see you all again during our valedictory and when we meet at 2 p.m. All right. So now we break for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. All the best.
All the best. Thank you.